Deisler? Absent or late? Mosel? Woolery? Zink? Mahan?
All that military talk.
Okay, the first thing on our agenda is the election of officers, the chair and the vice chair. Entertain a nomination. That may be Obama's call.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Paul Zink for chair.
Okay, all right. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we're going to close it.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations?
Well, we don't need a second. We're looking for nominations, and then we'll take a vote.
Okay.
Wait, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could you be it again?
Mr. Chair?
Someone needs to nominate him. He could be.
Okay, then I'd like to take back what I said and nominate our current chair, Mr. Mahan, to continue his expertise.
And then we have two nominations.
I'll rescind. I was going to ask you, are you interested in serving for one more term? That's how I was going to start.
I am interested in serving for one more term, but that will be my last term. I don't want to serve past that, past 2 terms.
Can you clip your microphone on?
Of course.
So are we taking a vote for Paul Zink? Or do you want to take the vote for Bill Mahan?
Paul, do you want to stay as a nominee?
Gary, does it change your opinion that
It does and it doesn't. I mean, I know that I thought Bill was going to be on a shorter term than this. For some reason, I thought that he was only going to be up for.
I did too, and I checked that this morning, and I guess I'm on for 3.5 years, and so I'm done in the middle of June 10. So I would serve out this year as, if I was elected, I would serve out this year as chair, and then next year I would not serve. I would not want to serve a half year as chair. And I don't plan to re-enlist. That'll be over 24 years.
Well, let's take a voice vote on the nomination for Bill Mahan as chair.
Well, just wait a minute. Is Paul was nominated first? Do we want to keep that nomination? I think it'd be more appropriate if Paul is still in the. Gary, if you're still holding that nomination, let's go ahead and vote on Paul first.
Yeah, I'm still in favor. I think Paul is deserves a shot.
I agree. Okay, we
All
vote
right.
for Paul first.
Okay, so
Then we
let's
vote.
have a voice vote all in favor of Paul Zink as chair for the next year.
Okay, we have 3. Okay, we have 3. Okay, all in favor of.
Okay, all right. A voice vote, all those in favor for Bill Mahan as chair for 2009. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, I squeaked through.
It looks like Bill Mahan has 4 votes. So
I will serve as chair for one more year, but that'll be my last year. So then I will get to sit aside for a half a year.
All right, now we need to
Thank you.
elect a vice chair.
Thank you. And what?
We need to elect a vice chair.
Okay, can we have a nomination for vice chair?
All right, I'd like to make a nomination of Paul for vice chair.
Okay, is there any other nominations? I guess then we'll vote.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of Paul Zink to serve as vice chair.
Paul, you're unanimous.
all right?
All right,
Thank you.
So that's Bill Mahan as chairman and Paul Zink as vice chair for 2009.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to, see what do we have going here?
Public comment?
Public comment. Is there anybody who'd like to address the board? They should come forward now. Address the board on any item that's not on our agenda. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. We'll move on to the minutes, which is December 22nd.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And are there any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, I have quick corrections, I guess they are.
Okay.
On the draft minutes on page 4, in the second paragraph, the third line, I think it should say fees are not being deferred.
On page 4,
Page 4, second paragraph, and the third line where it
some
says
fees are
not being deferring.
Calendar reviews, however, fees are not being deferred. What do you think it should say?
Deferred, not deferring.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then I have one other correction, which is on page 6. And it's under the action taken, under the vote, and I abstained on that item. Thank you.
Okay. So let that show that Bernstein abstained. Thank you, Bernie.
Mr. Chair, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
It's on page 6, which is item 2, which is 2515 Bedcliffe Road. Under the motion, under item 1, if we can change that to simplify the master bedroom chimney. This was that chimney that was at the corner, not the master bedroom window.
Oh, yeah, right. It was the window in front, wasn't it? Wasn't there
There was
some?
a window and a chimney that were at the corner.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Anything else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
under item 3, it's,
That same page?
no, page 7.
Page 7. Okay.
It says restudy the landscaping. I think that's a bit vague and harsh. I only had a problem with one of the trees. Do you recall that? Was there anything else? No. It was the Chinese fringe tree as it related to the mature height.
Yeah, so what do we want to say about it?
Restudy the Chinese fringe tree as it relates to the mature height, and also its ability to grow on the coast, a coastal environment.
Okay. Okay. Didn't we also we also talked about moving those trees slightly to try to open up the view from the neighbor's deck. Remember that? We thought that they could be moved slightly more
Yeah.
toward the house and toward shoreline.
That'd be fine.
So I think it should say study and the species and also the location to be sensitive to the neighbor's view corridor. Okay. Anything else? All in favor then of the motion, say aye. Opposed? So ordered.
Mr. Chair, I'll abstain on items 5 through 7.
Yes, that's proper. Okay, so then we move on to the consent calendar. Tony?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, December 29th, we had a review after final at 343 East Mission Street that was approved with conditions. 998 Sycamore Creek Lane was postponed 1 week. And 595 Sycamore Vista Road was continued to the staff hearing officer. And the consent last week was reviewed by Glenn Deisler.
Okay, is there a motion to approve that as read?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered, thank you. Announcements?
Let's see. Well, I have consent calendar for
Oh, excuse me.
January 5th.
Yeah, the consent calendar for today. Excuse me.
1600 Shoreline Drive, a review after final was approved with a condition. 998 Sycamore Creek Lane, final approval with conditions. 1115 Cliff Drive, final approval as submitted. And 1334 Crestline Drive, final approval with conditions. Today's consent calendar was reviewed by Glenn Deisler and Aaron Carroll.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed? So ordered. We have any announcements?
I don't have any announcements, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Chair, I'll be stepping down on items 2 and items 4.
Okay, 2 and 4. Huh? Okay. And Paul, you're going to be gone when? You're going to be gone.
Glenn's going to be gone.
I mean, Glenn. Excuse me, Glenn.
I'll be gone from January 15th to the 23rd.
So that's our next meeting. So will the rest of us be here? Through the.
I'll be here, and I plan on covering consent for him.
Okay. Oh, you were going to cover consent.
There was.
I thought there was a problem because
Okay.
yes, we talked about that this
It would
morning.
be consent calendar on Tuesday the 20th.
It'll be on Tuesday.
I can't make that one. You're correct.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it
Okay.
at 11 o'clock. I'll take the consent calendar. It's on Tuesday because Martin Luther King Day is on Monday, and the swearing in is on Tuesday. Okay, no subcommittee. Do we have any possible ordinance violations? Okay, let's move on to a discussion item, continued T-Fire review process. We have Jaime here. We've processed. I'll just give you a brief report on the consent review of T-Fire things. We've reviewed 3 projects. Everybody says they're underinsured. And we have one prefab house, or whatever you want to call it, not prefab.
Modular?
Yeah, modular, coming in from possibly. And I suspect there'll be a lot more of those because costs of construction are going to be so high here in Santa Barbara. Anyway,
Who's the chair?
I'm the chair.
Just joking.
It was close.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have not been here the last week.
Okay.
However, I am still interested in hearing from Tony and yourselves and whoever has participated in whether or not we need to talk about changes. Sorry, I'm Emily Monsignor Planner. We're talking about the T-Fire consultation meetings. You've conducted 2 or 3 so far?
3.
3.
No, in fact, I was just telling the other board members our experience, and I think the first one was pretty straightforward. It was a contemporary house. They wanted to build back a contemporary house. They had consulted with an architect friend of theirs and had some sketches, which was really good. And they wanted to stay contemporary. They wanted to change it a little bit, but not too much. We felt the site plan was reasonable. We felt that the architecture was reasonable. We had a few suggestions. Pretty much they were building back on the same footprint. Of course, there's the input on the green architecture from Paul Poirier is helping me. He's my volunteer on green architecture, and Katie O'Reilly Rogers was there to talk about fire-resistant landscaping. And I think that one went quite well. They went off, and I think they had a pretty good sense of direction. The second one was on the east side of Stanwood, up and way back almost under the high tension wires. An old conglomeration of buildings had been there and had burned down, and they were way underinsured. And so they were going to bring in a modular house. They were going to relocate the house where the existing stable was, an old stable, which they thought was a better site. And we agreed that that was a better thing to do. It's way far from the road and not visible. We were interested. They didn't have an architect with them. They didn't have any. They just sent off to Minneapolis for a tear sheet on this house, which was. They showed us and they said, this isn't the one we want, but this is kind of like the way they are. It was just kind of we weren't getting very much information, but we said, go away and, bring us back. And I guess they'll be coming back as a preliminary review because we're only going to give them one conceptual. These are conceptual reviews. They're not noticed. And we're only going to do this once. So they're all going to come back in as a conceptual.
Well, Mr. Chair, actually what we're thinking about doing is actually noticing that next time. We will notice it on the next time it comes in, where we actually have a plan to have reviewed.
You're talking about the one I'm just talking about?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, I agree. We're going to notice it.
Right.
Because we are only going to have one conceptual review. So they're going to come back in. We don't know how much information we're going to have. So it was really hard to give them too much direction when they weren't giving us any direction, except for that they're going to do a modular house, they think, because they can't afford anything else. So that was that one. Then the one this morning was very interesting. It was an existing house that had been owned by an architect, and the architect had prepared, and it was a simple little 3-bedroom, single-story house on Conejo. And they had plans that he had prepared to put a second story on, and the second story was to a great extent controlled by the plan of the existing house because it was a remodeling and it had an existing house to deal with. But we looked at that a little bit more as a clean slate, and we didn't think that the plans that were based on a remodeling were really right for building back a new 2-story house. And so our feeling was, if you're going to build it back just the way it was, go for it. If you're going to change it, then we want it to be better. And we didn't think this one was particularly better. It had some other issues too that weren't clarified about decks and things. So that one was we did the best we could on that one. That's kind of where we are.
And how far landscaping did we get as far as discussions?
Very skimpy.
Because we don't have a plan.
Because they don't have a plan. All Katie can do, Katie O'Reilly Rogers is doing that landscaping. And, she's got her list of plants. I've asked both she and Paul to have handouts for people so they have something to take away with them because they can't remember all of this stuff. And I think we're going to have to wait for the preliminary conceptual review to get anything at all. And that probably will be the case. People just won't be that far along.
Right. One of the questions that Tony asked that came up was whether we could entertain the idea of multiple consultation reviews. And I was initially concerned about just the quantity and volume of how many folks would be coming in the process to be able to do that. And so initially I think we mentioned to Tony that we'd only asked for having one type of meeting at these, that I understood there might be a desire to have multiple meetings sometimes, or to move things along.
Well, not in the same place.
Okay. You'd have to have an improved plan.
I mean, when you say multiple meetings, you're talking about
this
two groups?
No, this consultation meeting is a free service. And so they're consequently, if it's free, we were concerned about having too many free meetings. If you imagine if offered...
Only one.
Only one's fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think one is enough.
Right. Okay.
Because they'll just be coming back again and again and again.
That's our concern. Yeah. Even though we want to help folks, you get one shot. And I believe Tony's going to schedule them for 45 minutes now, or are they lasting about an hour?
We scheduled them for 30 minutes. That may be enough.
That's enough.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want to be stacked up.
Generally speaking, they don't have that much information for us to look at. Now, this one was a little bit different, but because the architect had these plans all completed for a remodeling that was never done.
Okay.
So that was unusual.
Right. And the last item had to do with the minutes. Actually, Tony went ahead and compiled some draft minutes.
Yeah, I like those. We
And
like
I think
those.
that'll probably work better than the notes. We were thinking we were just doing handwritten notes,
Right,
but I think it will
right.
read better if we
Right,
put them into a note
right,
form.
right.
We can edit them down to a short.
And we follow the same, pretty much the same system as we have here. When we review, we look at the neighborhood first. Of course, I don't have the opportunity to visit these sites.
Well, we're organizing some site visits, right,
Yeah,
Tony?
and I think that would be
Right.
good. But
So-
we're fairly familiar with the territory. But we look at the pictures. We've got these aerial pictures, and we look at that and we try to identify where they are and what the neighboring houses were like before, so we can see how
Right.
dense the neighborhood is, get a little feeling for the character of the neighborhood. And then we move on to the site plan, and we review and talk about the site plan. And then if they have elevations, we look at elevations, and they don't always have very much information yet.
Okay. So these draft minutes or summary of comments, we weren't planning on distributing them to the entire board unless the board's
No.
interested. I think we just go back to the reviewer, primary reviewer, and
Well,
have them.
if the board's interested, they certainly are
You're
welcome
welcome
to see
to
them. Yeah.
look at. Okay. That's all I thought we talked about today.
That's it.
Great.
I think
Good job.
I think
Thank you.
it's coming along. I'm going to be gone in February. Steve House is going to be taking my place, I understand. So that's the way it's working. I think it's.
And our probably best notification is calling folks up and letting you know as soon as we know whether there's items on the agenda. We'll try to do that in advance. We do not have someone scheduled for next week, right, Tony?
Well, so far it seems like we have very short notice if we're going to have anybody that wants one of these consultation reviews. So I was thinking of just sending out a communication to all the T-Fire volunteers and let them know that we'd like to have them available to jump in with little notice, or they can arrange with their alternate.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I'm available every Monday except for that week. There's 2 weeks I was telling you in February.
And we'll probably adjust for holidays also, if for some reason it falls on a holiday. Great, thank you.
Yes.
I have a quick comment. It's about the modular homes, and there's many, many modular homes already in Santa Barbara and some of the mobile home parks, and there's some on Ahe Drive and other places. So I'm thinking that it's going to be imperative for people to get that kind of information if anybody wants to somehow share it, where they can be obtained, where the good ones are, what's good, what's not. And then also the importance of having landscaping plans, I think, really is going to make a huge difference in being able to recreate the character of some of those areas.
Yeah. It would be very helpful if somehow there was some kind of research done on these modular homes, and that could be distributed to people who think they might go that direction. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of them are going to go that direction. And or could the AIA do it? I know that they're opposed to that, but as a community service, it might be something that they would want to be doing, and they still might want to be helping in some way. It might be something that should be pursued at the yes.
The latest issue of Dwell magazine came out with a list of manufacturers of these homes,
Yeah.
and a very nice one at that. I don't know if that's helpful, but I could certainly make up a list from that, or just to compile with someone else, or to start it off. Or
Yeah. Well, that would be a resource, but
A
I think
resource,
it needs. If there is some way to do some research on it in depth, that would be certainly.
So the idea would get to be preferred manufacturers that we would want versus
Yeah.
some of these log
Can we
homes.
do that? Can we do that? I mean, that may be touchy. That may be.
yeah,
We can't do it as far as saying these are the only ones, but it's we have something similar when it comes to roofing materials, where we say these are discouraged and or preferred.
Yeah, when we say, Mission Tile is, in fact, City Council has passed a resolution that two-piece mission tile was appropriate for Santa Barbara and S-tile was not. Now,
That's a manufacturing process.
yeah,
Many two-piece tiles available.
yeah. Well, it may be that within the process of these homes, there are some that are two-piece and some that are S-shaped or something. I don't know.
We'll
I
look
just say
into it.
it's a
We'll look into it.
Yeah,
We'll
it
get
might
back
be
to
a
you.
possibility that we just want to be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
have a public comment letter on this discussion item from Paula Westbury. She's encouraging people to save trees and build as little as feasible, and don't expand too much, and generally be environmentally friendly with the rebuild process.
Good. Those are good comments, and I will echo the seminar, or whatever it is that we had up at the church in Montecito. Yeah, the Covenant Church. We had the arborist was there, and it'd be worthwhile to communicate this, that the arborist said, do not cut down any trees for 2 years. He said, you won't know if a tree is going to come back maybe for 2 years, unless they're really, really badly cremated. Have faith. And so we've been encouraging people not to do a lot of clearing of the land yet, but to wait to see what comes back. And it's my belief that the oaks and sycamores are pretty tough. Aaron?
Pruning as well. Wait on pruning.
Wait on pruning. So that we're sending that message out to everybody out there on the airways or wherever or whatever. Okay. Let's move on to item number 1, which is 122 La Plata. This is a proposal for first and second story addition to an existing 1,000 square foot single family residence, and a proposal addition of 400 square feet to the first floor and 700 square feet to the second floor, and converting an existing attached garage to habitable space and a new one-car detached garage and an uncovered parking space. The project will be about 2,400 square feet and on a 6,500 square foot lot, and that is 84% FAR. So, you give your name for the record, please.
Yeah, okay. Dawn Sherry, I'm the architect. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Dawn.
Minutes from the previous meeting.
Oh, good. Okay.
This project was last heard on May 27th, 2008, and there are 6 items. The project was given preliminary approval for basis of working drawings. Item 1 is to provide a color board and materials board. 2, include project statistics, FAR calculations, and staff hearing officer resolution on the plans. 3, continue refining architectural details to blend in with the neighborhood vernacular, including seaside or craftsman-style detailing. 4, correct the tower design to match the presentation drawings. 5, provide a landscape plan where the new landscaping is being proposed. 6, project provides consistency in appearance on all elevations, compatibility with neighborhood. An additional tree is proposed to replace the one street tree being removed.
Okay. Very well.
Now, I have a question about what we can review for staff. Tony, I noticed it was like 3 weeks ago that I submitted these, and we noticed a few things on the plans as far as some of the detailing, including inclusion of copper gutters and refining of some of the detailing. Are we allowed to look at a different set of plans?
I think as long as you disclose what's different.
Okay. Is that all right?
Sure.
I'm always hesitant. I know that. So I'll go one by one, starting, I think, Paul, you said the finish schedule?
Color boards.
Color
Color
board
boards.
and materials. What would like
You have
to...
3 sets?
Yeah, I do have 3 sets.
Okay, yeah, let's get the 3 sets out.
And we're proposing a sage green plaster. It's an integral plaster synergy. It's smooth. It has a slight pebbly surface. It is non-visible. from even 10 feet away, but it's not like a smooth trowel, plaster Spanish style finish. It's I don't know if any of you are familiar with Synergy. It's a really nice high-end plaster, integral plaster. Also, we're proposing just the front door and the Dutch door on the south elevation and the Dutch door on the rear elevation to be in the rust color. And then all the trim in an off-white, and the trellises also, and the exposed eaves in an off-white. And here is the front door, and it looks like a Dutch door, but it's not. That in rust, this Dutch door in rust, and the one on the back elevation.
These are bronze windows?
They're a medium bronze. The brown that Marvin has is too brown, in my opinion, and I wanted something a little richer. It's too close to, and competes with the rust. And I've seen the off-white work. This looks really yellow today under this light, but when you put it in the sun, it looks white. I don't know why it's reading this way.
So the trim will be this
The trim would be
off-white.
this, and all of the trellis work, and the columns in the front, and the beam work on the front elevation. So it would be a green, white, with the accent of rust, picking up some of the brown and the bronze in the roof, really rich. And we've seen this look done very successfully in some seaside communities, and it looks very cottage and seaside, and so that's the colors that we're proposing.
And what about all of these rafters, and what will they
It
be?
would also be the off-white.
And then there's gutters in front of
Copper
those?
gutters.
Copper gutters.
Copper gutters and downspouts, which we think would also pick up on the richness of these other colors.
The window trim is going to be the white.
Yes,
And the window itself is going to be
the bronze, yeah.
So this would all be white around here, and just the red door.
The white or off-white windows, it just made everything look too white. And when we've seen this done, and we like that the bronze picks up and makes the windows look richer.
Okay.
What else is on there?
FAR on plans and...
I looked at them.
Yeah, okay.
There's no change to any of the square footages? The house is the same? Okay.
Yeah.
That's number 2 is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have some tower design. What was
Now,
that?
the last drawings that were submitted that got preliminary were sketches. So
Yeah,
we had
right.
not incorporated the raised plate at the tower element on the CAD drawings, and that was the comment that that element be incorporated into the final drawings. We didn't change any of the design at all. In fact, none of the design has changed, and I believe none of the window sizes at all have changed from preliminary. We might have changed a window 6 inches here or there in size, but all the windows that were supposed to be high, facing the neighbor to the north, are the same. And this is a
Yeah, what color was that?
copper. And I don't have these shown on the plans. I should have put them on there, but they'll be at the front door and the Dutch door. At the front door, it would be a pendant hanging. It'd be hidden behind there. You wouldn't really see it. And then the side door would be
Where would
probably
it?
go right here, and just in a couple of places in the back. It's on the electrical plan.
Okay, and then we have some details to look at.
What size are your rafter tails?
Good question. I think they're 4 by 6s. Let me look at the details. 4 by 6. We have very simple balcony, the railing on the upper level at the front elevation. That detail is right here.
Is this 42? Is this a 42-inch guardrail?
But it's hidden because there's a little tiny wall, which we thought was important because otherwise the 42 looks big.
Yeah.
So we did that on purpose. And from the side, the railing runs down and follows the roof,
Okay.
which we've also seen done really successfully. All of the very tops of all the beam ends are going to have a little copper flashing around the primary trellis members. But that'll extend down about 3/4 of an inch around. It doesn't show up on the elevations, but on the back. It's only on the back. And let's see what else. Column details. They're wood columns with just wood, no plaster. All the trellises and the columns for the trellis are white painted wood. And
What about that little truss at the front door? If you detail
Yeah,
that?
do you have a larger picture of that?
no, I don't.
We can jump into comments real quick.
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
No, we're not going to get to comments yet. Okay, so those are the details. What about our windows here? How do those work?
We have trim on 3 sides and a simple sill without the bottom trim on the lower. There's
Okay.
also a slight
And they're recessed.
copper flashing that's going to come out on the top of the flashing of the windows that should have been drawn. I hope it was drawn. Where's the head?
That's that door there.
Window head. Oh, she didn't draw that, but it should be right here. It should be right there. But you won't really see it. But it's just a simple wood trim on those windows. It's not a nail on window. It's very simple detailing.
All right. Landscaping, we have...
Oh, I forgot to mention that we're not ready with we're not decided on some of our plants. So
we don't have the landscape plan
plan
yet.
We could come back with landscaping.
Okay. All right, I think we got a pretty good idea what you're proposing. Do you have anything on this, Tony?
We have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay, we have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury. I'm going to open up public comment. I have one slip here from Mac Bakewell.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year to you.
I'm Mac Bakewell. My own home is at 126 La Plata, immediately to the north of this property. Let's see here. One of the things that wasn't mentioned in Don's run-through, the chimney seems to be gone. Is the fireplace gone?
The fireplace went to a gas only.
Okay.
We're having a hard time finding a place to put the chimney. It just wasn't
Okay.
working.
Okay, well, I don't miss it, but I don't really care that much one way or the other, but I don't miss it. Let's see. And the windows, I noticed that from the last plans, on the back side, the east elevation, is it this here? West. This one is now a box window. It was not the last time around.
A what window?
Well, I don't know what the right term is.
bay window?
Well, sort of. It jumps out. It's a box.
Pops out.
Box out. This whole thing is new. It pops out. It just is. Isn't that new?
I don't think so.
From, well, I've got, actually, I brought handouts of the whole history of this thing from 2001. And on that particular one, I think I have it right here. This is the current one, or maybe not the ones we're looking at, and this is the one from May, which was the last time around. It's not shown here.
Oh, you mean the side window?
Well,
back.
this whole thing jutting out from the building.
Well, this is
Flush. There it is. Okay.
It always.
That's this one. That's this.
Yeah.
And this is the previous iteration.
Well, no, this is the side elevation.
Well, yeah. Anyway, just a comment. The only reason I'm concerned about that personally is that side window is, of course, if someone's sitting in that window, they're looking into our yard, and privacy's always been an issue. But I just point those out sort of peripherally. The gist of my prepared comments is, let's see here. First of all, I wouldn't be alone today if this were a little later on in the agenda, but so I'm speaking not just for myself. But okay, the windows. The biggest thing for me is still as it has been all along, and it's come a long, long ways. If you want to, curious to see, this is 2001, and it goes on, and it's I like it better and better. But I still think, I'll let you spread those out, and I'll look at my notes here. If we were going to spend another 6 years at it, I would hope that it would that I would end up with some more sunlight on my south wall out of the deal. I clearly have more than I did 3 years ago, and maybe a lot more than I did 7 years ago. To me, that's living on the mesa. People that do not have sun on their walls get mold. It grows on the inside of the sheetrock. It grows. You have to do proactive things to mitigate it. You have to keep heaters on in the room all the time, keep your windows open. There's different things you can do, but if you have a closet or something that's on the shady side of the
close
house,
to the ocean,
your stuff's going to get mold unless there's sun on the wall. And we've never had an issue, but our roof is going to stay in the sun. That's what the solar ordinance does for us. But our south wall is, during a few months out of the year anyway, is going to get shady. I'm really, I think the real gist of my comments today, since this is basically a done deal at this point, is I want to thank you guys, all of you, for your patience and your endurance, and you too, Don, for everything that you've done. This has been a long, long time coming. It has, as you can see here, it's come a long ways. It's a whole lot. I'm still not happy about it, but it's going to be a lot easier to live with than it was before. And I think that our efforts have shown that the process really does work. And,
thank you for those comments. We all appreciate that. Yeah. We all appreciate that everybody's worked hard to do the best for the neighborhood.
I think that's really about all I got today. So
thank you.
There you go.
Anybody else like to address the board? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, and it is to the board for your comments, questions, if you have any, and comments. I just wanted to look at, do we have a site plan, Don, that shows the, and this is his house here? Mm-hmm. And this is, and north is this way?
North is this way.
Yeah, like this right here. Mm-hmm. So this is a south light coming in, right? Mm-hmm. This is the noonday sun coming in.
Also add this one comment I forgot.
Okay.
Related to the height. Excuse me. Related to the height thing, I noticed that there's still a 9'6" plate height on the first floor, and I don't know if there's any chance to drop that down a bit or anything, but that all relates to the sun.
We'll look at that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It would appear to me that that there will be sun coming in onto that wall all through the year.
This is the second story back here.
Yeah. But even the first story shadow is not going. I mean, the sun is going to come here at noon, and then in the afternoon it's going to come around like this. Now, in the wintertime it won't come around so much, and in the summertime it'll come around more like that. But that wall will stay. That will get sun on it. It will get sun on it, in my estimation, all year long.
A little less, but
yeah.
Enough.
Yeah. Okay, let's just look at the plate heights. What was our agreement on plate heights? I don't. Pardon me?
Looks like it was 9 feet.
Yeah, I know.
It says 9.6. Elevation said 9.
This is 9 here.
9'6" on section 8.
That one. That's up 6 inches. No, it's not.
Yes.
It's rough.
9 feet.
Oh, it's deceiving because it's taken from finished grade.
No, from finished floor. 9 feet.
9 feet from finished floor, but 9.6 from finished grade.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Yeah.
deceiving.
Right. 9 feet.
9 feet.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Yes, Bernie?
I'd like us to look more closely at the tower, if we could. Because, Mr. Chair, I guess it's not really a question. But I'll make it a question, which is how do you explain that this design with this tower and all these elements follows our guideline for appropriate scale to the surrounding homes?
Is that a question to me?
Question.
For
A
me?
question to the architect?
It's actually got preliminary approval, so we should be reviewing the essence of the
I'm not sure how to
tower.
answer that question.
Okay, well, I take a crack at it. First of all, personally, I wouldn't call that a tower. I would call it a bay window. But it's kind of like a tower because it has its own little separate roof on it. But it doesn't. But it isn't higher than the other roofs. So while you could argue whether it's a tower or a bay, it's there's a little Victorian commercial building on the corner of De La Guerra and Delavina Street. You know that one? It looked like it used to be a little drugstore. And it's got one little round tower or bay window. I don't know which you would. I don't know exactly what the nomenclature for that. But I think a tower has a lot to do with whether or not it's the height of it, and also architecturally whether it makes contact with the ground. Towers kind of have a sense of coming up out of the ground. You might call this more like a turret, only it's embedded into the roof. I personally think it'll be okay. It doesn't add to the mass. Now, last week we had another one, which was a 2-story space. I mean, this is not a 2-story space. This is just a bay off of the master bedroom. So it's not the same thing as a 2-story space coming up from the.
I think that's. Thank you for answering that.
The ground floor.
Plan. I couldn't really tell how
Yeah.
tall it was going to be and how
Yeah.
it fits in. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question about the green color and whether or not that's and maybe this is more a question to the board than it is a question to the applicant. Should it be a little bit grayer, earthier green and not quite so bright? Usually colors. My experience has been that whenever you look at a color chip, you can always assume that it's going to get brighter as it gets bigger. And that maybe that should be a grayer, a little earthier green.
That one's not right. You don't want to look at that one. This is one for you to keep, even though Color Xerox made it more yellow.
Yeah, this is just a Xerox of that. Yeah, but to some degree, these colors are mitigated by the texture of the stucco, and also by the stucco's ability to pick up some dirt and other stuff over time. So I'm just putting that question out to you, or maybe this is a pre-canned kind of integral color, isn't it?
No, it's custom.
Oh, it's custom.
But
Could you
can I
custom?
answer the question?
Yes, you may.
I think that
Would that be darker and lighter when you're doing the model finish?
yeah, it's going to look different, and I got to tell you that I don't know if I'm even 100% convinced on that color.
Yeah.
And I never do a color on a building until I see a sample of it with the plaster, because they want a sage kind of green. They don't want that kind of darker green that's going to appear dark, but it's right on the verge of being too yellow.
Sage is always okay because it's created by God.
Right.
But these colors are created in a factory, And I mean, if it were just like sage, I wouldn't ever have a problem. That's the thing. Will it be sage, or is it just called sage?
It's supposed to, the look we want can be described by me as sage. It's hard to define it, and the original color we picked was had a little more green blue tone, and then, but it didn't go quite so well with the rest. You need a little bit of yellow to go with the rest. So I was trying, that was the color that most closely represented, adding a little bit of the warmth and taking it out of the blue zone.
Yeah.
So I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, and it's going to be tricky to get that color right. But
Well, can you research that a little more when you come in on finals? This coming to finals for consent calendar, or is this? Are we going to give this a final here?
Can we?
Okay.
But I can certainly look
Two
at that.
comments.
Okay.
Actually, 3 comments. The first one is on sheet T 1.2. We don't have to really go to it. This elevation's not up to date.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This one has to be reflected with the current design. The 2 architectural comments, one having to do with this truss. I think you have a 45-degree angle in here, and this should be, I'm guessing, should be a little longer. They look a little bit too pointy, and that's just a visual thing that I kind of picked up on. And then the other one was that these bay window pop-outs, if we have 4x6s for the tails, we should go with like a 6x8 down here, or a 6x6, a little chunkier on the meat, just to make the bay window look like it's a little heavier.
The outriggers that support, Gloria, that support the bay windows should be like 6x8s, or 6x6s, or something like that.
I think you're right. I
Heavier.
think that's a good suggestion.
Okay.
Does someone else have something, or is this no need to comment on it?
Well, I think
Which one? What comment?
what?
Oh, I can look at that.
I don't
kind of
think,
thought the 45 worked, but I can look at that.
That's why I'm iffy.
From a structural standpoint, it works better at a 45.
it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
But it's structural.
Well, it's structural, but you wouldn't need it because the span is not that big.
Structural
The 45 doesn't bother me. It's this beam and that beam connection that kind of feel awkward, being one above the other and not maybe lined up. Maybe this beam could actually just be in that plane, and the whole
Well,
structure can be pushed up.
Well, you've hit on a thing. When you put the beam in there, this really doesn't function as a truss. So it really isn't a truss at all unless this connects with this. And so there's a little bit of an architectural.
I don't need that secondary beam right there, is what Glenn's saying, which I don't. If I put these in and make it a truss, this is the member that
it ought to come down and.
that member right there is
That
what you're
would just actually come in this plane and return back to the building, so that the raft.
Yeah. It
Well,
would
it
be
should
down.
be a box beam. It should be 3-sided
Correct.
box beam.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what that should be there.
So you'll revise the truss to make it a real truss. Okay. Nobody else has any problem with this green? I'm the only one. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think it could be grayed down considerably from the line 90 that it is right now to achieve the sage color that I think she's speaking of.
Real sage is perfect.
It's got a lot of gray in it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I agree with that, and I also wouldn't mind seeing that. To me, it looks more like a burnt orange, which I think the key is, fitting in. The size of the house is already going to be a huge change in the neighborhood, so anything that makes it more subtle, even though it's only a couple of doors, I think goes in the right direction, so maybe that could be toned down a little
This
bit.
could be a little more of a burnt orange.
Well,
This is going to go darker if I go darker here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll change. When this gets grayer, that'll get deeper.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One comment on the landscape plan
Okay.
had to do with what the landscape plan is.
I mean, the lack thereof.
Well,
The landscape.
yeah.
We don't have the
I guess
landscape plan here
It's
yet.
concerning this new canopy tree right here, and it has to do with that sun angle that you were thinking about.
Oh, because of this sun. This is
You mean
going to
that
shade
small
this.
canopy tree?
Yeah, this is going to shade.
That canopy tree that's not going to exceed 8 feet?
Just kind of in developing that landscape plan, keep that in mind of the neighbor's son.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, that's a really good comment, Don. That we want to try to keep the sun on this building. Maybe this isn't the right location for a tree.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, what would work really nicely would be if it was a deciduous tree.
Right,
So
that's what I was
that way
gonna
in the
say.
winter months, when the mold comes up, then the sun will still be getting through.
Well, the view is still effective.
Good.
We have French doors facing the ocean right there.
Okay, Mac, I can't have comments from the floor like that. Anyway, you're going to bring a landscape plan back. I think that, I mean, I'm looking for a motion for...
Mr. Chair, I have some comments on the windows. Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at the window details. If we go to that. Well, we can start here. One of the things that I've noticed is that we definitely have two different styles of window details that's going to be going on here. The boxed windows that are projecting out don't really have the sills on them, and then we have the other windows where we have the sills projecting out beyond the stiles on each side of the windows, and the same thing with the headers. And I'm wondering how this is going to be, how that is actually going to come to, and this needs to be upgraded because you have the window details as all painted.
Okay.
And I'm wondering how that's going to work with this sill, because this isn't really the detail of the sill that the windows that she's proposing, because you are proposing aluminum clad. Is that correct? Are the sills going to be aluminum clad?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what my concern is that how these sills are going to be aluminum clad and wrapped around out past the stiles of that of these bays, especially when we're looking at windows like this bay here, where the sills actually wrap all the way around to the corners. So I'd be concerned about this detail and that detail, and whether the manufacturer is actually going to be like that, whether that window is available with the extra long sills. And I know that sometimes they do that.
This is a sill that won't be part of the window unit.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that you weren't going to have a lower unit on this, so
No, we won't have a lower, thick 1x or 2x below the windowsill. We won't have that.
Yeah, but the point is that this isn't really a proper detail.
No, Gary's right. There's going to be another. The window unit will be here, and then the trim, the sill itself will be extending around.
So
and
will you be adding?
piece.
Will you be adding a sill like right here?
Yes.
And that will come over in this.
Gary's right. Mm-hmm.
But we really need to see these details corrected.
And
I think they're really important. And I'd like you to do one, and show the outrigger and how that all works and then how it's flashed and all that
And
stuff.
then I would have a concern of how the window treatment would work if we've got this dark bronze aluminum and we got a dark bronze sill coming out there, and all of a sudden we have this other element that's underneath it that's going to be the cream color. It's really going to kind of stand out.
This piece will be smaller, and the white trim that's separate will be the piece that extends out. The
Okay.
window itself will be this gray.
I think what we want to do is have these window details come back to the consent calendar. And while you're at it, that way you can also revise the front door truss, and we can look at that, and you have another chance to study these colors a little more. Maybe what we're going to do is continue this to the consent calendar. We post everything's okay. Thank you, Gary. Those were very good comments. Yes.
To emphasize that, can you make it a little bit more direct? Not just we want to have a look at it, but we want to ensure that the green gets muted to make sure that it is a sage, and that this other one gets definitely muted. And I also think that this color is too dark for compatibility. I don't think it has a seaside feeling.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I can formulate a motion and see how this goes.
Okay.
This is going to be continued to consent with the following comments: that to provide additional details for the front door truss showing connections to the post below, and showing connections to the post below. 2 is to beef up the bay window pop-up supports to a 6x member. Outriggers. And then 3 would be to provide complete window details for both windows that are in the bay window pop-out and windows that are flush and plain.
Yes.
4 would be to update sheet T 1.2 to reflect the current elevation. And 5 would be to provide a new sage green that has a little more gray, matching the gray color, and modify the door color accordingly.
And landscape plans, too.
And 6 would be provide landscape plans addressing new trees and potential height.
And you feel that anodized brown's okay? That that's not too dark?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's discuss. Is this feel okay, everybody? I mean, it's pretty dark bronze.
Cottage.
What?
I think it's just more cottagey feeling instead of just all white trim. It's a seaside.
You like it?
But I think that's fine.
Do we have any choice in this?
Sure.
It's the next size. I mean, the next color is brown. It's really brown.
Really brown. But they don't have custom colors? What?
Custom colors on these kind of windows are expensive. They have like 17 to 25 different colors, but you really have like 2 or 3 in the family you're interested in. So between that and 2 other browns, she picked the one that's best to go with the color scheme.
There was one that's called Ebony, and it's a lot darker, and I know Bernie wouldn't like that one. And the brown one to me was just too muddy. It was not enough contrast, and I liked the sharpness of the contrast, actually.
Well, why don't you, when you come into consent, Dawn,
You can bring all the colors.
yeah, why don't you just take a little piece of your elevation like this and color it with the dark windows and the cream-colored trim and the sage and the roof, so that you
Should've
can
brought a
look at it
photo
and see if
That would've helped.
it
I
composes.
had a photo of a house that.
Okay. All right. I think that'll be good enough. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Mac. And this is the process working. It makes me feel good to know that progress. The neighbors sense progress, and I think probably the applicant is pleased too with this design. Very good. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Okay, let's move on to item number 2, which is 1651 Sycamore Canyon Road. We have a proposal. This is a proposal to permit as-built constructions. 713 square feet, 1- and 2-story additions, almost 200 square feet of accessory building, a swimming pool. Proposed new construction consists of 1,300 square feet of additions, 500 square feet of pool house, 1 carport, 50 cubic yards of cut and fill. Staff hearing officer approval of a modification is requested to allow more than 500 square feet of the accessory building. The existing permitted 3,700 square feet on a 24-acre lot is 36% FAR. And enforcement, this has to do with an enforcement case. And if you would give your name for the record.
I'm Peter Hunt, the architect.
Peter, welcome and Happy New Year to you.
Well, thank you. Happy New Year to everyone else, too.
Okay. I think we saw this once before, and we should have some minutes on it, right?
If you'd like to see my copy.
Read. Yeah, it's okay. He'll read them here.
Mr. Chair, these are the comments from the previous meeting. Number 1, redesign the proposal to be simple and architecturally cohesive. Number 2, show the drip line of the Peruvian pepper tree. Number 3, show a hip roof on the proposed pool structure. Number 4, the board supports the modification request for accessory space square footage.
Okay. Okay, Peter, if you show us what you've done, I think simplification is
That's the key.
that's the key.
If I may show you the site, first of all.
Yes, you may.
There was a photo taken before the fire.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting site because, if I may show you the site plan here for a moment, this is a 25-acre site. It's
Right.
24.7 acres. And as you know, we had a fire recently. And I'm over here is north, and the ocean's down there. The fire, in effect, burned these houses all up here along Camino Alto and Camino Verde and some on Los Alturas, and partially burned this house and burned all the way around here and came around here and then burned down the canyon and burned on that side of the canyon, but didn't burn in the bottom of the canyon, but burned on all three sides of the house.
But not the house.
But not the house.
Yeah. Like St. Mary's Seminary was the same way. It burned right up to the base of it and all around. And that, that sits up on a hill.
And this of course, is built on a ridge.
Yeah.
I think, there are obviously a lot of reasons, but there is citrus trees around this house and avocados. And there's some shots here after the fire. This is this view of the house it's difficult to get this view, but I took it because you want to see it, and this is what was approved back in 1978 and reapproved in 8 years ago. But you can see the fire and how the house is still there. This is the view from this hairpin turn here, and there's a bunch of conifer trees there, and the house is behind these conifer trees. They didn't burn. And they didn't burn. As you can see, it's this side that didn't burn. And on this photo here, this is taking up the driveway. You can see the garage there. It didn't burn there. This shot here is standing on the roof of the house, looking over the pool and up this canyon. And so many of the houses up here on Camino Alto burned, but not all of them. And you can see they put the fiber netting down there.
Man.
And I had 10 houses in the fire area, and none of them burned. So that must mean...
Are you Irish?
Must be.
Okay.
And so the other thing is, you saw this house before. It was originally approved in 1978, and it is let's call it a Y-shaped house. And that's a challenge. And I wanted to point out that as I was working with these, this was sort of the way I was working, and you practitioners might be able to find this
interesting.
In order to rotate, I kept rotating the plans and then pulling the floor plans and the roof plans up to this view, and then would rotate the other way. And it's a real brain teaser, and so that's part of the reason why it's been so long for us to get back here. I'm just hoping that you'll appreciate how challenging it is to work with an 8-sided house.
Yeah.
I went back and did some research trying to figure out who in the heck in the past has ever done an 8-sided building. And Cliff May and Wallace Neff, I don't think anybody else was foolish enough to do one. But I just want to point out that it is an existing 8-sided house, and we are working with... legitimizing the as-built because they took off part of the roof and to put a second story on without a permit. And so, as you know, there is a portion of the house there are portions that are existing that have been previously permitted, and those are the shapes that I'm working with, and that would be the garage and this shape that you see from the canyon. So that would be the garage and the second story shape and this roof here. And that would be, this has been previously approved, and as has the garage. So what I did was I took those shapes and recognize that here's a hip roof shape, the 5.5 and 12 pitch, both at the garage and this second story element. And the other thing that's going on, it's upside down to me, so this roof here is at a shallower pitch, and that would be, I think it's this roof and that roof. And so it's challenging to work with a different pitch all of a sudden, particularly when they come around and they join a steeper pitch. This was the real challenge for me, so I don't need to tell you this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The central portion of the house is when you drive up is this front door here, and so you can see what it looks like to the right and what it looks like to the left. So visually, there's a sort of a panorama view here.
Right.
Excuse me. They're proposing a second-story office here, which faces south. This is and naturally in Santa Barbara, as we all know, this is the view. There are views from this house, and they're incredible views. They're island views, and you can see down. But this would have the full south view, and once again, there's a panorama that goes around, and you can see how this element is here and there. It has been the most problematic, and so what I did was, recognizing that there is a corridor, a balcony out here, and that this has a balcony, I took that shape, that motif, and repeated it along this elevation to get continuity. But that, actually that is the second thing, because the first thing is to start with this roof and allow the roof to grow, which if you look at the roof plan, for those of you that read roof plans well, you'll see that the roof goes along and it creates a bonnet. So there's the top of the building, the middle section, and the bottom.
This is that.
That's the existing.
This hip is that hip right there.
Correct. And so in our meeting in August, we talked about this building being on 24.7 acres and whether it was appropriate to put 2.5 bedrooms, two bedrooms on the second floor and an office. And the gist of the meeting, as I understood it, was, that's an appropriate building. It's 3,000 some, whatever the square footage was. It's 35% FAR, and that the size of the building on this acreage was an appropriate thing. What we're hoping, we recognize that what we have here is the shape of a building with a basic Y-shaped house. And what we're asking the board is, do we have the correct shapes to make this house work? We recognize that we have not designed details. We're not showing you any great style on this building other than it's a hip roof. We've talked about whether we should use a copper roof on this versus an asphalt shingle roof. Certainly it's a plaster building, and it has these existing white clad windows all throughout. And beyond that, those basic shapes, there isn't a whole lot of style. There's some suggestions here. We haven't delved into those styles because we want to make certain that we're going in the right direction for the shape of this house and hear a dialogue from that. And based upon that, then we would like to proceed in the direction of adding style to the building.
Right. Okay.
So,
do you have a roof plan?
Yes, I do. And I think it's over here.
For the front of it?
The plan's right there.
There it is.
So that's that parapet in the center.
So that's the parapet.
So the roof starts here and grows up.
Right. Yeah. And this one has a different slope.
And that one has the different slope.
And you put that thing in there to...
Yes, because there's...
transition.
Yeah, that thing is sort of like a low tower, and it could be articulated. It's right here. The significant thing functionally from this bedroom is that from here you can see down canyon and see the islands. And so we're trying to, on the one hand, putting a porch across there, but on the other hand, trying to keep the parapet low enough so that it's lower than the windowsill so you can stand there and see coastline and not just the water, because it's more interesting.
So this roof here really comes like this and goes over to there.
Yes, yes.
And this deck is partly, that's that deck right there.
Yes. And so what we did, we took the fascia, the gutter line, and kept it even across here. It took quite a while, but that's the one that we settled on.
Yeah. Okay. Tony, do you have anything on this?
Mr. Chair, we have Tava Ostringer here from the City Attorney's Office with some staff comments.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Tony. Like Tony said, my name's Tava Ostringer. I'm here from the Santa Barbara City Attorney's Office. I'm the attorney primarily assigned to this enforcement case. I'm just here to bring this matter to the board's attention that this is a high priority enforcement case, and it has been for some time with our office. I'm not here to affect your decision, but I would ask that if this matter is continued again for preliminary review, that, Mr. Chair, you do set it for a date certain to come back, as opposed to allowing Mr. Hunt an indefinite period of time in which to resubmit and get back on the agenda.
Okay. We will do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any letters on this, Tony?
I do have one letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay, we have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
And the 4 or 5 other letters in support?
For this meeting?
Oh, this is a new letter from Paula
Yeah,
Westbury.
she sent that letter with
Paula
regard to
sent
this
us new
meeting.
letters all the time. Okay, I'll open up public hearing. Anybody who'd like to come and address the board on this particular item? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public hearing, and it is to the board for your questions and comments. Let's get back to those elevations again. Let's see, where were those? Yes.
Is that the portion in question here that the enforcement case is about?
If you look at the second sheet,
This one?
so this is the second floor.
Excuse me, Peter, you've got to stay on.
Yes, sir.
You address it here, and she can look up
Yeah.
there. And
Okay.
so we're what?
So we have a diagram that indicates the areas that are permitted and the areas that are as-built and the areas that are proposed. So in effect, there was a building in 1979. It's this
Okay.
shape.
Yep.
And then there was a permit issued in the year 2000 for these areas.
Okay.
And then the enforcement case are for these as-built areas here and here and there.
Okay.
And then the proposal is this second story area and
that
this
little
carport.
piece there.
Yeah, the garage.
Okay. So yes, Bernie.
Clarify, it looks like, so the new proposed size is 6,661 square feet, correct? And I'm just curious about the parking, because it says it's got a one-car carport. Is anything being done to add garages, or are there garages?
So we have taken that carport and changed it into a garage.
Is it how many cars does it fit?
Well, currently there's a 3-car carport here that's really substandard in size, and so we've added this carport here.
You say there's a garage now.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, we made this a garage. When you saw it previously, it was a carport. And in order to add continuity and simplicity to the building, took away those openings and closed it so the building would have greater mass.
So we really have like 4.
Right, yeah. This is pretty tiny, but yes.
So is that going to be? I mean, we have 750 square foot maximum, right? Are you within that with your garage and carports?
You know, I got to say that I can't answer that question exactly. I think we would be, but
I mean, if you're over 750, you'll have to get a mod.
And because of the enforcement, I would like to avoid getting a mod. And
Yeah.
I would like to point out one other thing. Because of the enforcement, we've dropped the pool house. for the time being, in order to get in the building department. And so you will find that these plans, we've stricken that.
So is this becoming a garage now, too? I see
It's
door.
an existing garage.
Oh, so this is an existing garage, that's going to be a new garage?
Right, this was approved in 1978.
Okay, so I think what we'll want you to do is calculate the areas of that and make sure that they're within 750 square feet. So, and there are the doors.
And this, the garage
and the
that's
other-
proposed does not have, isn't indicated as a garage.
But it will be.
But it will be. So that would be this.
And there probably is, on this site, there is additional guest parking all over the place.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, probably plenty of parking.
And I just have one other question.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
yes.
Is there also an accessory building somewhere?
Yes, there is an existing as-built pump house adjacent to the pool. And it's here, and it's shown right there, 184 square feet.
I guess I didn't understand. You said you're not going to
There
address
was
the
a-
pool right
We
now.
have proposed to put a pool house here, and we've taken out the proposed pool house. But the as-built pump house for the pool.
So that's an as-built thing that's going to get legalized.
Uh-huh.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Gary?
I remember this from August, but this is a hard window to look at, let alone draw.
Hard one to draw.
I'm wondering about, there's, if Bill could turn to the elevation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this just an architectural element here? Is that?
This?
Is that? Yeah.
Yes.
It's cantilevered out in two directions, or is that?
If we could look at the floor plan, which is the previous sheet. It's an architectural element that is essentially a device to make the roof work. It's in roof plan, it looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
So in effect, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 towers, which effectively allow us to. When you design these things, and if you were to take this roof in this direction, you can go straight across. But when you rotate it like that, these no longer line up. So, as you recall back, if you ever took architectural history, in the Renaissance, they would build these little vents out there, which this is what you see.
Which is what
there. And that allows the roofs to come together. So it's an architectural device to hide those things. But here, yes, it's brought out. That's a couple of feet.
2 feet, yeah.
But the roof comes out beyond it. See how the roof comes out beyond it, and the balcony sets back in. You can see it in the roof.
So you walk underneath these.
Yes.
In other words, this thing comes over here and kind of sits on that wall there, like that, and something like that. On top of the roof, but underneath the roof it's hollow.
Well, I understand the concept of it. I was just, I'm kind of wondering, seeing how the second floor. This second floor addition is a proposed addition, right? What part of the second floor is existing?
See the dotted line right here? And it says outline of permitted second floor, and it's this squared off area.
So this is new, and this is new.
Yes.
And your plan is to match up onto these existing roof lines?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what I'm curious about this, to make these roofs work out. We're utilizing this, but this is all new. I'm wondering why we can't use existing roof lines and existing sight lines in order to make things work. It's not like this is an existing situation here.
Where's the roof plan again?
Over here.
Yeah.
So which is on this roof plan? Which part is existing?
This, and in the existing there was a tower here, and so it's been somewhat removed.
So I mean,
Why can't this valley come down here and just go in there like that and just go this way? And this roof is higher, this shed roof here is higher than this?
Yeah, these are in the same pitch, but when you, I don't know, I wish I could use the right words, but if this roof, you know, it rotates and it comes out to here. But
No,
then-
but if you turn this thing here, then you'd get a hip. You'd,
Yeah,
well, so
and
you
it
have,
looks-
you got to have it. It's got to go out that far. This one is a little bit different than this one. This one should have a thing like that.
But then you end up with, well, first of all, I was trying to avoid the 1950s tract house look. That's why I put those towers there.
Right. I don't think that'll be a. Yeah, it won't be a problem. So this is this thing. I mean, these things are just getting in the way there. It's an architectural method of treating treating the joints of a complicated roof, and any other questions?
I know the answer to it, but
Okay.
have you studied this in 3D model view?
Yes, we've begun doing that. It wasn't ready for today's meeting.
Okay.
And we would really like to show up in 2 weeks again and
That
show
would really help.
Yeah.
The 3Ds would really help, I think.
Yes, Donnie would help on this.
Is this, does the board feel that this is going in the right direction? I mean, this is a big house. Most of it's existing. We're putting an addition on it. It's on a big site. It's, it's, a lot of it is what it is. And,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
The one thing I keep coming back to when I look at this is the big entry area.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that how the entry as it was better than that. And now the whole second story is getting pretty much based on the fact above this entry hall. And I don't see that entry hall as having enhanced the place at all, personally. I think it added a lot of bulk and isn't a very pleasant entry necessarily. A little flat, it's going into the home. The way it was built originally seems much more enticing than how it is now. And I kind of hate to see a whole second story being based above that, thrust above something that, in my opinion, didn't really work to begin with.
Isn't this really here to support this, and it's really this that's driving that, and not vice versa? I mean, if you didn't have this up, if you didn't have a second story, you probably wouldn't do such a big entry.
Well, it is as built, and
This is as built.
It's part of the enforcement.
and they've put in a marble floor, and the marble floor extends throughout this entire area. And I'll admit, the first time I saw it in plan, I was amazed. But I went there, and it's a large entry hall, and it's in a scale that we're really not used to, particularly with the English culture, where things are compartmentalized and smaller. But it's a crossroads. There's the stairway, and they have a number of children, and and of course you have to walk through there, and so in many ways it's a very social area, but it is there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
question about the entry. Existing, is that space a flat ceiling or is that vaulted?
It's a flat ceiling, and we have a section through there that this is a straight section through there, but it goes up and down. But yeah, it's about a 12-foot ceiling. What's probably and then it drops in the center area. Yeah, it's a large, grand space, and the marble floor gives it a sense that it's, you know, it's sort of that beige marble color. It's nice. It has very good light. It's warm because it's a warm color.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
I see this as I think that the 3D modeling will help. But as I see it, I think the roof is a lot more complicated than perhaps it needs to be. I think it could be envisioned as a different roof entirely than what it is right now. And I think that there are other solutions to, you know, to the addition of the parapets, and now it may gain in height, of course, but in this particular area, you know, who cares about the height? But I think the complexity of this roof, it seems a bit reckless to me. So I think I'll leave my comments at that. But reckless. I just think that you can simplify roof lines that come across. I mean, I've seen many roofs. I think you could mansard the whole thing if you wanted to, or you could compartmentalize it this way and that way with some gables and hips. I just think that the way that it's set right now, it's not. I don't find it comforting, and I don't find the elevation comforting from the roof lines as well.
Peter, is this bedroom, can that be located someplace else so that you would be dealing with a more of a L-shaped, you know, some kind of a roof that would be more? Is there any other place to put this? Is this a necessary bedroom? I presume it is.
Well, I think so, because my understanding is what the owner wanted to be able to do was be able to walk like that outside. And so consequently, he has his son in this bedroom and his daughter in that bedroom, other children in these bedrooms. That's his goal. That in addition to this already being built, so...
Well, I mean, this is built, but this is new.
Yes. And you're suggesting that then there will just be a roof here?
Well, I'm suggesting that you know, maybe this bedroom would be someplace else, and you'd get into a shape that would be more easily roofed. An L shape, in terms of hips, an L shape is really easy to.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy, but when you get that angle, when you get this thing here, that's where you start to get into trouble. I think what we need to do, and we need to move along. I think that I mean, personally, I feel that this is going in the right direction, and it's on a very big piece of property. This is almost a situation where you don't. You know, neighborhood compatibility is almost a non-issue because it's on such a big piece of property, and it isn't really compatible with anything else around because it's the biggest house probably in the whole area, and we're just looking to make it as appropriate in terms of its architecture as possible, and I know that Peter wants to do that too. So I would suggest that we continue it for 2 weeks. Let him do his 3D studies that may shake out some realities that you don't understand yet, and you can. I think our direction should be we would prefer that you further simplify it if you can. If you can get rid of these false or some of these false elements that you need for these complicated roof transitions. If you can get rid of some of those, that would be probably an improvement as far as the board is concerned, because it's just one less element in a very complicated, big. You know, you look at big mansions and the beautiful ones in Italy and wherever, and they're still relatively simple and organized. Mm-hmm. And this is this has a lot of stuff going on with it. Yeah. So is that the direction that we would like him to go?
Not for me, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I think this is an opportunity for the board, since this is an enforcement case, and
Yes.
this was built, and it shouldn't have
Illegally.
been built. It was built illegally, and it's an opportunity, if there's going to be all this construction, to take it back and simplify it that way by eliminating that big entry hall and starting from a little bit simpler floor plan to start with, instead of having to rework something like this. I feel very strongly about that.
So you want to remove some of the entry, and you're not going to support that as built. It needs to be.
No, I can't.
Okay, well that's a really important direction, and I think I'm going to ask for a straw vote on that, because if that's the way the board wants to go, that's a very strong direction. So people who support reducing the as-built entry and consequently the second floor that's above it should raise their hands.
Wait, can you say that again? That's what
We have an as-built entry. We have an as-built entry, which means it's illegal, and one board member is suggesting that because that's illegal, we don't have to accept it. You know, this is a clean slate kind of thing. As far as we're concerned, it's not there because it hasn't been permitted, and we don't have to approve it just because it's there.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One other thought. It may mean some reduction in square footage, but there may be an opportunity to enhance that entrance by recessing the door back and still have it, maybe the wall surface there as a front loggia or something. But it looks very, and I think Denise mentioned it before, it looks very flat, especially when you come to the door. And there may be an opportunity to actually pull this back, still maintain that line upstairs.
I'd be wonder if this were a 2-foot thick wall and these doors, you know, and these windows and everything.
It feels like it needs enhancement on the entry anyway.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I was going to throw out there, which has nothing to do with the reduction of the entry, but just kind of get the board's feeling on the possibility of a completely different roof, meaning flat.
Putting insert around or something on a flat area. Mr. Chair, I wanted to.
Well, okay, but just
hit on
before
Denise's-
before you make that comment, I want to just comment that a lot of the roofs here are permitted and they're hipped. So what you're suggesting is that those would be torn off and revised. Now, Gary.
I wanted to comment a little bit on what Denise was hitting on, and she has a point that's very well taken, that this is an as-built situation. And this situation right here is driving what you were stating about whether that bedroom could be moved or not. And if this was eliminated, and perhaps the second-story bedroom was moved to this location, we would have the true Y building, and I think things would blend together. I mean, we are looking at an enforcement case. We are looking at an entryway that wasn't really approved, that we never had the opportunity to review, setting doors back, or it's quite a bit of square footage. So I can see Denise's point that by doing this, a lot of things will change on here, on this plan, including our elevations.
Do we have any other comments? I'll try to summarize after you make your comments. Aaron?
It's not as much of a concern for me. I agree with the comment. However, it's such a big site, and that elevation is not visible to a street. It is not as much a concern for me, and that's where I'm standing on that.
Okay. Bernie, do you have anything to add? Well, it seems to me that we have a mixed board here, but there's not a lot of support of. I mean, I think you have simplified it, and I commend you for that, and it's better than what we saw. But there's not support for what's coming out of this. You're trying to hang on to this, and it's driving a lot of the architecture. and there isn't support for that architecture yet. So, I mean, we'll continue for 2 weeks, but I think you should be prepared that, you know, if you can't find some ways to make this acceptable, the board won't support it. I mean, I really think you need to go back to your applicant and your client and say, you know, it's a very serious situation. We probably are not going to, they're not going to support this unless something major is done. And the same thing goes for the complexities of the roof and that you're going to have to cut a little deeper.
Yeah. And so it would seem that the important area is here and not the other sides of the building, or are they equally important, or we just haven't heard about them?
I think the board all feels that this is driving everything. They don't like it because it's too big and awkward looking. Mm-hmm. And if it weren't there, we probably, and you came in and said, this is what I want to do, but we would say, no, it's too big. You don't, make it a more reasonable entry. And so this is not acceptable, and it's driving the rest of the architecture, which is also not acceptable because of this thing. That's the problem. And either this has got to be made some way, it's got to be made acceptable. I don't know, you'll have to figure out how to do that. Maybe this does need to be pulled back and recessed a little bit. I don't know what the answer is. And maybe and the roof has to be, and this stuff has to be simplified somehow in a way that hasn't been accomplished yet. It's a tough problem. I'm glad you're doing it. So I'm going to entertain a motion for a 2 weeks continuance with the applicant to restudy the entry, the as-built entry, possibly reducing it or affecting it some other way that it seems to be more appropriate, and looking at the configuration of the second floor. Can that be simplified in a way that it can be roofed in a more conventional manner? And I think that we're going to move this one along because it is a serious enforcement case, so we're not going to dally forever on it. One of these days we're going to come to a place where we're just going to deny it, and then you'll go to City Council, unless we can see something that the majority of the board can buy off on. I know you're trying as hard as you can, and I'm not criticizing you for that. It's a tough problem. Okay, is there such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? See you in 2 weeks, Peter.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to item number 3, which is 49 Santa Teresa Way. This is a proposal for a new pool, spa, 500 lineal feet of fencing, a replacement of a hardscape deck, 2,000 square foot of terrace area, site retaining walls, and changing the windows, trellis, 134 square foot garage, changing it to habitable space, 521 cubic yards of grading. This is on a 4.9 acre lot in the Hillside Design District. We may take action on this if we wish to. And I think we've seen this a couple of times before. This is in progress. You got a preliminary approval last time, right? So we have some minutes.
Yeah, is that all right, Tony? Is there any difference between these and those?
Yes, both sets. A little more information included.
So pass that down.
Okay, will you give your name for the records, please?
John Beecham, architect.
Yes.
Lane Goodkind, landscape architect.
Welcome and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
We have the minutes somewhere. Okay, Paul, if you'd read those off.
This project was last heard on November 24th. There are 5 items. The grading is appropriate to the site. 2, show the short-term construction conditions and the planning commission conditions on the plan. 3, study the garage door for higher quality and compatibility with architecture. 4, return with fire zone delineations on the landscape plan meeting high fire standards. 5, return with the drainage plan.
Okay. Very good. Let's...
Here's a landscape plan.
This is a landscape plan. Do our landscape architects have landscape plans down there? Okay, well let's the grading is okay. The planning commission conditions are on the plan now. Is that true?
No, they're not. We didn't get exact direction on what those planning commission comments were. What we had were from an original lot split on this parcel, and we didn't know if that was what...
To pull that up a little closer to you.
...was what was being referred to. We do have those construction directions, but these are from the 1999 lot split.
Tony, the planning commission conditions that are supposed to be on the plan, is this planning commission resolution 079-99? That's what's supposed to be on there, right?
I think so. I can look it up to be sure. I don't remember off the top
Looks
of my
like
head.
that's what it would be, yeah.
Those were for actually this house here, when this used to be one lot. So we just weren't sure, because all those resolutions were developed for this property, considering that this one was existing.
Was that it was a 2-lot split, creating 2 lots from one?
That's correct. And that was in 1999.
I think there were still some conditions that pertain to the new lot.
Well,
so are those what you were referencing? That
what I'm going to suggest
for that to be
what
on
I'm
the
going to
plan.
suggest is you get with staff and clarify which ones of the PC resolutions are still pertinent to this particular work, if any, and if so, get those onto the plans. That's all we want out of that, and you can settle that up with staff.
It's also okay to reproduce the entire reso on these plans, because it does call out which parcel each condition refers to.
Okay.
Garage door?
Garage door, we have a cut sheet on the garage door.
We don't have a cut sheet. What we've referenced is...
Do you have a drawing of it?
Yes. This is that garage door, and in the schedule we called out to... We still would like to use that same garage door because it's functioning correctly, and it's here with Keynote 7 that we're going to take that back down to bare wood and refinish to match the entry of the house. And we brought this photo to show that this is as far as you can go on that cul-de-sac, and you still cannot see the garage door. But we will take it down and stain it to match the entry elements, which we brought a sample of. It's a dark wood stain like this. So we're just saying to match this particular entry area.
Fire on the landscaping, how does that look? Why don't we look at drainage while they're continuing to look at the landscaping? Okay, the drainage.
Well, all of the grades on the site are being maintained as existing on the north side. So all of this is sheet flow, and the downspouts are just going to be kept as they are. There's one here and there's one on this corner, and this will it's all grasses. It'll act as a little rain garden, and then it'll just sheet flow out to the street like it does now. It's graded with a slight grade break here along the driveway.
So what do you think is the fall from here to here?
It's a minimum of 1.5%. Towards the street, it's up to 2 or 3%.
You can kind of see that fall here.
Yeah. So that's all just being maintained as existing. The only changes here, grade changes, are material changes. We're not changing the grade at all.
So it looks like we have about a 4% or so.
Yeah.
And what's happened to the water that goes this way?
This right now, there's one drain inlet here that goes back to the street. That will be maintained, and all of these retaining walls will have a typical back drain to them, and they will all daylight down at this flat space here, and then sheet flow. We'll try to use this as an energy dissipator. That's our plan. So the runoff from behind the walls will be used.
And this roof all?
Yeah, it all goes back this way. There's a couple downspouts that get picked up and then go back to a storm drain.
Even the ones that slope this way, they all still go that way. And where do those come out?
There's a daylight down here at the street, through the curb at the street. Yeah.
Okay. All right. How does the landscaping look in terms of fire?
I have a question about this, I guess, decking along the, let's see, the north side. It looks like there's stairs coming up to this, and there's plantings underneath it.
That's a staircase that goes out to the second story.
Okay. Okay, so this is on the deck then, or this is on this
on
ground plane. Okay, I see. And so this is a planter within it. Okay, it's a little deceiving there.
Office space underneath the stairwell.
As I'm measuring off of the tree canopies to the house, they're not really complying with the 15 feet from roof line.
15 feet.
Yeah. And they're also oaks, and they're measuring out here at 20 feet. Which is, we all know they get
there's plenty of space to move them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can get into the comments later. Just is everything there? I mean, are the plans adequate?
As far as the amount of planning, yes.
Okay. Do you have anything on this, Tony? Okay, do you have any letters?
We do have one letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
I have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury. I'll open up public hearing. Anybody like to address the board on this item? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public hearing. It is to the board for your questions and or comments. The grading is okay already. Does this drainage plan feel like it works okay for everybody? I mean, it's pretty much just what's existing. No, I don't think there's too much change to it, except for back here where the walls and everything go down to this. I guess we call that a little retention area. When the water builds up in here, then how does it get out? What happens to it?
The idea is to dissipate it as much as possible, so it would sheet flow over the wall.
Over the top of the wall?
Yeah, the wall's only a maximum of 24 inches high. There's that idea, and there's because we're going to have an energy dissipator in there, we'll likely need to extend the length of it so that it could be like just a long perforated pipe, so that essentially serves as a subsurface energy dissipator.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on that drainage? Or do we have any comments on now, Denise, you can make your comments on the fire landscaping.
Sorry about that. Yeah, in the first 30-foot zone, the trees just need to be further away.
There's like one tree here, one or two trees.
Click on.
Well, there's one, two. Let's see. We're at 10th scale, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, this one right here, I guess, is out of whack. The redwood trees are already there.
Right. They're not on our property.
They're
either,
not on
so.
the property. And the prunus trees in the front, like the...
Oh, the fruit trees?
Right. I guess they're prunus, Santa Rosa plum.
Yeah.
I know, they're... They also don't comply to the 30-foot zone.
Those are fire retardant.
They are?
Yeah. Fruit trees.
Fruit trees, okay. Well, as I read it, it was any canopy can't be within
Okay.
15 feet.
Okay, so we want the minutes to show that the canopy trees have to be relocated pursuant to our safe fire landscape regulations.
I have a question.
Just a minute here. Let's get the board, then you can ask your questions. You have anything, Aaron, on the land?
I had a comment on the irrigation. You have an existing controller it looks like an 8 valve, but you have more than 8 valves,
Yeah.
and you want to upgrade that to a weather-based controller, anyways, per our new guidelines.
There's a change here if
Do
you
you-
want to see it.
do you-
We changed it to a weather. I believe it's
Oh.
a weather base with more stations, but
Okay,
yeah.
so that's already been done, but we're not reviewing it.
What's that?
That's already been done, but we just don't have it.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
right there.
Okay.
Yes.
On the landscaping?
Yes.
There's two tiny little things that I noticed I just have questions about. I noticed that the water main is not on, it may just be a drafting error, it's not on their property line, it's on the neighbor's property line. And also there's some plantings that are on the neighbor's property as well at the very, at the entry.
The reason for that is you can see where the fence is. The fence is not constructed on their on the property line in any location. So we're just following basically. This is their yard. That's their yard. They have a friendly relationship with these neighbors. So we're just going to fill that.
You're just going to fill that in.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say is that here on this landscape plan as opposed to the irrigation plan, I see that if they could just bring that backflow device in a little bit more to screen it from the street would be nice.
Good suggestion.
And then, but what about that water line? Is that going to be on your side or not?
On the what? What?
The water line, the main feed to the valves.
Well, this is diagrammatic, and it says so. It states so on these irrigation plans. So, yeah, it's just drawn as a diagram. It's obviously we're not going to build this on someone else's property. Yeah, most irrigation plans are simply diagrams. Location of main lines and lateral lines is to be laid out in the field. So yeah, it certainly won't be constructed on somebody else's property line.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's, if I had that irrigation plan and it was written out on that, it's gone out on that side.
Are you an
like that
irrigation
is.
contractor?
Yes, I am, as a matter of fact.
Uh-oh.
Matter of fact, I do hold an irrigation contractor's license.
Huh. Well, this is the way we typically draw plans, and we put that note on there. They should be located in the field. Yeah.
Yes, Bernie?
Because I know we've seen all this before, right? It's been here once or twice. I'm not remembering. What is the pool fencing made out of, and what did we decide about the grading, how we're handling all that? If you could just refresh my memory, I'd appreciate it.
Pool fencing is a simple wire mesh, a minimum of 3 by 3 inches with a wood post. So it'll just be a stained, probably a redwood post with a top and bottom rail and a welded wire mesh. Grading wise, is your question just general in terms of the concept, or?
No, I know what you're doing. I was just wondering how the neighborhood would be affected by any trips going back and forth, or if we've already put that into the play of...
Well, Bernie, we gave this a preliminary approval. The minutes stated that the grading was okay. A majority of the board voted for that. So I think that I don't think it's using our time correctly to go over that.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know if that's me or you. I think I'm
Oh, you might,
It's not on your shirt.
Okay, we fell off of there. Anyway, let's. I mean, we have these issues. You know, the grading is okay. The planning commission conditions are going to be taken care of by staff. The garage door is this leaving the garage door as is with the dark stain? Is that acceptable to the board? And we've had comments on the fire landscaping plan and the drainage. If all of those things are okay, we ought to move this along, and since we're behind schedule. Yes.
I'm fine with moving this along. I guess I can't remember why we were commenting about the garage door. I can't, so I'm
Well,
going to let go of that.
we thought, I mean, the thought was that this is a high-end house. It's a high-end neighborhood. This is an old tract house kind of garage door, and we were hoping that there would be something nicer done. And the argument is nobody can see it because it's around the corner. Unless you walk up onto the property, then you can see it, and it's one of those questions is
something they can upgrade 5 years from now.
They could upgrade it. That's a nice color, and maybe that's acceptable. Is there a motion then to this goes in the consent calendar for finals, or is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
one little thing.
Yes.
Just update the water compliance. There's a new one now.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, it's on the city website.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
could we ask that the applicant get the fire department stamp of approval on the landscape plan before coming back to consent?
Very good. Please do that. And Gary, is it okay on the schematic irrigation system and the notes as such are acceptable to you?
You can make a note on it. It wouldn't hurt. Or you can push the line over. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move it. Let's move the lines. Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Thank you very much. It's going to be a nice project. All right, we'll move on to item number, thank you. Paul is stepping down again on this one.
It's a beautiful plan.
2105 Anacapa Street.
I don't know how you want to do this. Or these are ours, I guess this one is.
This is a proposal to demolish a 2,200 square foot single family residence and detached garage, and to construct a new 3,700 square foot two-story single family residence, including an attached 400 square foot garage. The project is located on a 9,400 square foot lot in the Mission area, Special Design District. Staff hearing officer approval of mods are requested for alterations to the front setback and for terrace patios to be located in the open yard. The proposed total of 3,500 square feet is 100% FAR. This will require modifications. It is on a corner, so it has 2 front yards, and it's a sloping. It's a site that slopes down from Anacapa Street towards State Street. So if you would give your name for the record, please.
I'm Brett Jewett, architect.
Hi, Brett.
Hello.
welcome and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Here are some pictures that you may want to show us of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. This is the surrounding neighborhood. It's the Upper East Side neighborhood. The existing house is a single-story house and occupies an area.
You gotta get a lot closer to these mics.
All right. The existing single-family house is roughly in this zone right here. There's an existing two-car garage in the back. Part of the program is to design a house that my client can move into. She wants to be able to live in this house as she grows gray, as she says, which means that we're designing the house to accommodate wheelchair tolerances. The garage is at a lower elevation than the front of the house by almost 10 feet, so it tucks under. There's a similar model to the layout of the house directly across the street here, where there's a two-story section of the house that faces Anacapa and a tuck-under garage on this side. So with that program in place, we're developing 2 floors of living in this portion of the lot, and the garage with terrace landscaping coming down to it here. This is a reuse of part of the footprint of the existing house. Because we have 2 front yard setbacks, it reduced the buildable area of the lot to less than 40% of the width. So we were able to rebuild on this portion of the lot with the house footprint. This room right here has my client grew up in the house and has memories of the views from this. This will be her library. As you come in, a large living room, and the courtyard here organizes the 3 principal public rooms of the house around this setback. Also, as you look at the Padre Street side, the length of the lot here approximates 2 lots along Anacapa Street. So we have building frontages that face Padre that are consistent with the building frontages that are front yard exposures along Anacapa Street, with a large courtyard here making the house similar in scale to what the front yards are as you go across Anacapa Street. The dining room is a sort of a bridge unit of sorts with glass on both sides, so it's very transparent. Breakfast to the sun, a sunny courtyard, a shady courtyard, and an extra bedroom which could evolve to a caretaker's room. Upstairs there's a loft, master bedroom, closet. Both of the balconies face the west towards views and tend to relieve the bulk of the building as we get to the elevations. Careful attention has been given to how the roof plan has been laid out, keeping in mind the patterns of the design guidelines. We have cascading roof forms, single-story elements that break up 2-story exposures of wall, changes of material that also help to break the building mass, and offsets as you move along the house. The model best represents the animation along the building sides here. And as we were developing the model, we carried stone across the facade of this element here to also help break up the bulk of it.
I'm turning it up so that you see the television can see it as it would be seen from the street.
Right. What's important to remember is this is the center line of Padre Street, and on the other side is the sidewalk, and so eye level exists just 3/4 of an inch along the perimeter of the model here. And with some judicious planting in here, the exposure on the Padre Street side again will be cut into 2 forms that have the similar appearance of the houses that we see on Anacapa Street. This is a 20-foot wide courtyard, which is the distance of side yard setbacks. Both of these plates along the neighbor's property line are reduced in height, and the only windows that look into the neighbor's yard are out of the master bedroom, and that's set back an additional 4 feet from the property line.
There's an existing stone wall along the sidewalk there.
That's correct.
Is that retained? Does that remain?
It shows up in the model here, yes. And then as it wraps around the back portion of the house, is going to be built in the same stone.
Integrated into the garage.
Correct, integrated into the garage and brought around so that one of the faces of the courtyard is done in stone. So that as you come into the house and look through the living room, you're viewing across into the stone.
Okay, I think we understand what you're proposing. Tony, do you have anything on this?
No, Mr. Chair, other than we're looking for comments to be passed along to the staff hearing officer.
This is for changes to this particular part of the house here, which is in the front yard setback now, but is existing, and the terracing of the walls in the required open yard. Okay. Do we have any letters on this?
We do have one letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
We have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury. Okay, I'll open up public comment. Anybody like to address the board on this? They should come forward now. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment, and it is to the board for your...
I'm sorry, I have this letter on.
Oh.
The 20 neighbors and their addresses, all in support. I thought that would be part of the...
So you've gone around to the neighbors.
We actually had 2 meetings with the neighbors, one to introduce the project, and then the applicants went by individually with the drawings and met with each of the neighbors without the pressure of me and a group to...
And do we have the 20 closest house? Are you looking at that there? Here's this. I don't know if you want to see those. So where are we here? We are here on 2105.
That's right here.
We're like 4th. $34, $18, $31, $35, $46. No, this looks like more than 20. What's? Oh, see, this is 20, and what's this? What am I looking at? 20 closest houses ranked by size. 20 closest houses ranked by FAR. Okay. So ranked by size, you are the second largest. And 3,300 is that? Oh. 3,500. Is that what it said here?
That's right.
This said 3,729. Why does it say 3,729 here in our description? And this says 35. What is
Depends
that?
on how they're looking at the garage, because the garage is subterranean.
There's some kind of
half of the reduction,
Yes.
reduction because of half of the garage is buried.
That's right.
By FAR, you're 4th, and by size, you're second biggest in the neighborhood. Okay. And we have pictures here that the applicant has brought of other houses in the neighborhood. You should review those.
This is the church. This one shows how close that one is to the street, and part of this
Okay, we have any questions? Everybody understand what's being proposed here? This is a new item, and we haven't seen it before. Oh, do you have no questions, and do we have some comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Denise?
really compliment the architect for a set of beautiful drawings and a really clear picture of what you're proposing.
I
It's-
certainly would second that
Boy, I just,
compliment.
it's a real pleasure to see drawings like this. They're gorgeous, really gorgeous. And the model is also really nice. So there's really nothing left up to the imagination.
The model really helps to show how the house breaks up along the street a lot more than elevations do. This is a real good lesson in how important models are to describe what's happening.
I think it's a beautiful piece of architecture myself.
Okay, well, that certainly is a positive comment.
All right, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Gary?
We'll get the other end of the pendulum then. I too think it's a beautiful building. However, I think for a 9,000 square foot lot, that the amount of structure that the applicant is proposing is excessive. It's incorporating all of the lot. It's utilizing part of the existing 30-foot setback. It's utilizing the garage is barely four-sided or three-sided into the earth. It's really 2 1/8 into the earth, which is a 420 square foot garage. And I think the amount of structure that we're putting on this lot, a corner lot, is excessive.
Okay.
So I think I would caution everybody to really take a sharp look at that, of how the existing structure, where the existing structure is, the photograph in the plan, and what they are proposing.
Okay. All right. We have two sides of the pendulum here. Do we have some other comments? In the middle, or either side or the other?
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Glenn?
Britt's a fabulous designer. He always does really wonderful things, so the design is fabulous. Kind of getting into Gary's comments about the amount of coverage on the lot. Specifically to me, it's this one-story wing, which is where the modifications are occurring. That is the only troubling part to me. It just seems like it's crowding that corner some, and if that was reduced, I could feel better about it. I know it's at a 100% FAR. It is a beautiful piece of architecture, and that's what we ask of projects that are 100 FAR. But the modification part is the part that's bothering me somewhere. It just feels like it's crowding that corner some.
This, and I can understand, because my wife and I face the same problem that your client is concerned about, and that's living in a house and growing older and being able to use it. And I can see that this ultimately could be a bedroom. It's got an appropriate bath, it's got a closet, and it could be the bedroom. And in the event that somebody was an invalid, that's exactly what you want. You want all this function on one floor. But it does add to the footprint and to the mass of it. I agree the architecture with everybody that the architecture is excellent. Would it be possible to possibly, do this porch here off of the dining room and somehow, I can't design it for you. Obviously, you know what you're doing. To be able to reconfigure this space in some way so as to make it more efficient. That would be the question. I think that well, Before I get into any comments, how do the rest of the people feel about this? Is it acceptable? Is size, bulk, and scale acceptable to the neighborhood? That's really a major issue for us. We can see the architecture is going to be acceptable. We know it's going to be quality. This is going to meet all of our guidelines. The one big question is the size, bulk, and scale compatible with the neighborhood? Yeah.
This is the Upper East. I believe it's absolutely okay for a home of this scale there. There are many, many others of the same quality and size.
How do other people feel? Let's get our thoughts out now. Glenn?
Mr. Chair, kind of repeating my comments. The square footage is not a question to me. It's done fabulously. It's just maybe where the square footage is.
You're suggesting that maybe there should be a little more two-story and a little less one-story, and that moves it back a little bit from the... I mean, that's... No. Let's let us get our comments out. So what you're saying is you feel that, at least as presented, its size, bulk, and scale isn't quite right yet. You got to make a decision. You got to come down.
Size meaning square footage, I'm fine with.
Okay.
There are a lot of pictures that were brought that seem to be smaller. The neighbors that were smaller. I'm sure there are examples of larger ones in the area as well, as Denise has mentioned. So it's sort of a quandary where this one-story element is breaking up the two-story mass. But it just, for it being a 100 FAR, it still seems like it's not having as much green between the house and that site wall as that a house of this magnificence should have.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll segue off of that area. If the camera can zoom in right here, this area right here. What we have, if we're looking at a sight line, we're looking down Anacapa Street where a lot of the larger homes are, and this would be one of the larger homes in the area, as the FAR says. The nice thing about the larger homes there is they all have a nice setback. And this one, as it stands, the existing portion of it is already within the setback, whereas all of the other homes that are on there meet that setback that are there. This is a much larger lot, and as we get over here, the lots become larger, and this is a smaller corner lot. So one of the things that I would point out is that when we have a larger home and we have something of this scale, usually we have that setback, we have I don't want to say grandiose, but we have something of an element that gives this house the stateliness that it's preferred. So that's where Glenn was going with the front single-story element. I think that's really driving the mass of this overall building.
Okay, Bernie, Aaron, let's get your comments out on the table.
It is beautiful and elegant and stately, but I think that I would like to see it reduced somewhat, and if it comes a little bit off here to make it have a more feeling with the flow of the street and feel that it's proportionate to everything. And then I'm also a little bit worried about this part right here. I don't know if this, I guess it's an outdoor deck or patio, and I don't know if the neighborhood has other things like that. There's a house on the Mesa that's just being finished, and it's not done as beautifully as this, but it has this underground access to the parking, and people who are looking at it are saying, I just never thought it would be that big now that the house is all finished, and I can tell you where it is, but it's important for people to realize how it's all going to fit in with the rest of the houses nearby, too.
Aaron?
Mr. Chair, I like this building. There may be ways to reduce. I was thinking about this area. Maybe this is a little bulky. but I really like it. And
I think we all like it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question that
Compared to this building,
like the architecture. Well, the one across the street.
Vast improvement.
Oh, right. That's before our board. B, whatever that is. BFB. I think what I'm hearing, this is what I'm hearing, is that the board really likes the architecture. They like the style. This really fits into the Mission District. Obviously, very, very beautiful and well-conceived plan, but it's a little too big. I think that's what I hear a majority of people saying. It's a little too big. It means you need to go back and you need to think some of these things through and make them a little more efficient. I think you're very, very close to an approved project. I certainly don't go away depressed. But
Well,
now you can, I'll let you speak, but first you'll have to give your name for the record.
I'm Dr. Barbara Matthews, and I'm the one whose mother and father bought the existing home in 1944, and I grew up there for most of my life, and I saw my parents grow up there, and my mother was 100 years old, and as far as I'm concerned, this area here is the existing structure at the existing setback, so I'm not asking for anything different from what the current is. And in fact, this portion of the building will be set back farther from Anacapa Street than the current building is. The people who are my precise neighbors to my sides are not upset with it. Every neighbor I spoke to all the way up the street here, except for this corner, and they're the people who just built their new home, which in fact doesn't have a setback any different from my own. With the exception of the person at that corner, there isn't anyone in the neighborhood who is unhappy with the project. In fact, every one of them is happy with it at the existing situation that it is. Now, if I make modifications, the kinds that you want, and I were to remove this, then, as you pointed out yourself, I remove the possibility of being able, like my mother, I hope my father lived to almost 96, my mother was almost 101. I would like to believe that I can then move myself down here and perhaps have a caretaker take care of it up above.
I understand that,
I feel that I have not asked for anything other than what is the guidelines that you provide. I am at 100% of the FAR, but still I'm within the FAR. I mean, legally I have not asked for anything that I don't either existing have or that's within the confines of what it is that you permit. And if you're not going to allow me to have what you permit, then you really shouldn't have the guidelines. I mean, if I meet within the 100%, that's what I meet within. And so, I mean, it doesn't, if what you really want is for everybody to be 85%, then you shouldn't allow 100%. You shouldn't allow me to spend the money, the time, the emotional frustration of being able to have a project that meets all of the guidelines, and yet you decide you want to change the guidelines, and you're changing, it seems to me you can't change the rules in the end of the game.
The 100% is you know, you're right at the limit. You're
I understand that, but I'm still within
right
it.
at the limit, and the board has to make finding that this is compatible with the neighborhood size, bulk, and scale. If I vote for you and Denise votes for you, you don't have those votes right now at this particular stage of this.
But isn't that a shame that all the neighbors would vote for it and you'd vote against it?
The neighbors are not voting.
No, I understand that.
We're the ones that are doing the
I
voting.
do understand that.
So I think that, I mean, I've practiced architecture for a long time, and I know that you can come back and look at a plan and accomplish what you need, what your client needs, and also accomplish what the design review board is inkling at, because we look at this for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, and you've spent hundreds of hours on it. So we're not pretending to be specialists and we don't want to get into the redesign of it. But what we're suggesting you do is you go back and you take a look at this, take a look at the efficiency of everything.
What is it you want him to do?
You want it smaller, excuse me.
Wait a minute. You want to address the board, you have to sit down, give your name for the record, so we have everything.
The fact of the matter is, though, you want a building smaller than this, and I simply don't feel that that is fair of you not to allow me to have an FAR, which is within the guidelines.
I want to answer your question if I
Yes. Yeah, I'm asking.
can. Your name first for the record, please.
Michael Ziroli.
Okay.
I'm the husband, and I'm asking if it's 100% of what you want, and then why do we have to go back to the drawing board to get something smaller when we're working with?
Maybe as Glenn said, it isn't the area, but it is the configuration. I don't know. It's a design issue.
It's hard to believe it's a design issue when quite frankly, I think Mr. Jewett was absolutely perfect. I don't think anybody could have done a better job.
This is going to require a. How many? I'll ask for a straw vote. How many people can support a recommendation to the staff hearing officer that this modification, that these modifications be granted right now? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question about that.
Yeah.
If this piece was existing, why is there a mod necessary?
It's not.
Well, because they're making changes to it.
It's conditional. I met with Roxanne 3 times, and she said that the staff will support the modification.
Yeah.
And the reason that we're reusing that portion is in order to make our open yard area work, the courtyard is necessary as it turns and uses the front yard. So that pushes the usable area into the front there. And as Barbara pointed out, that is existing. We're allowed to rebuild it. We can make changes to the windows and the roof material.
You have to get a mod to do that, to change the windows.
Correct.
So it's just like it's going to be changes to the windows. That's what they need the mod for.
So really, it isn't related to how close to the street it is, or it's in the setback.
Well, it's a legal non-conforming right now, and they want to make some changes to a legal non-conforming structure, and that's why they have to have the mod. It's probably as a slam dunk as he's suggesting.
Yeah. Well,
but
right.
I'm asking how many people can support a recommendation to the modification hearing officer, and how many can't,
Okay.
in case it's appealed to City Council.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to say that we are charged with the NPO ordinance.
Yeah, I understand.
And the NPO ordinance states that to get 100% FAR, that is without modifications. And although this is exceptional architecture, and that is one of the findings that we can make, that it is exceptional architecture, and that is one of the main things that we look for, we're still struck by two elements on this project. One is that there's a portion of the building, be it existing or new, that is in the setback area. The other is you're getting a variance for your garage being 3 sides buried, and that is on the cusp. I mean, if you look at it from this angle right here, the one side of the garage is not exactly 3/4 of the way. That's 4-foot exposure, and it has more than 4-foot exposure. So there are a couple of gray areas on this project that if it goes before the City Council, I can't say that we're doing of what we're charged to do, to say that this is 100% FAR and it is absolutely exceptional, because it's not. It's in the setback and in those two things. So that's just what I'm saying.
Yes.
I appreciate what Gary just said. However, I think it's really rare that this board sees something right off the bat that is this extraordinary. And that is going to be really a jewel in the crown of Santa Barbara, in my opinion. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And 100% FAR, that's true. There are a lot of homes that are there that probably are too, that were built a long time ago, beautiful, extraordinary estates. I think this is very much in keeping with the NPO findings. And I rest my case.
That's all we're trying to do, is make Santa Barbara more beautiful.
Right.
By putting something in it that's beautiful.
Okay, I'm going to. I'm a vote counter, and I don't see the votes here for to send this on
Then
to the
I would
staff-
ask that you deny it.
Just excuse me. Now,
Just deny
no,
it so I can go to city council. I'm not going to change it.
Okay. Well, what we would have to do then is we have to send this to the staff hearing officer before we can take an action, right?
Well, it's not here for an action, so I don't think you can deny it. I think.
No, we can't deny it.
Yeah.
It has to go to the staff. What we should do is continue this to the staff hearing officer to get that out of the way.
And you can
then
say
it
you don't recommend supporting. You don't support the request for the modifications.
Well, I was getting to a straw vote on that. How many people can support the recommendation to support the modification? Well, we got 3 to 3. That's not, no, that doesn't pass. So I think what we'll do is
Well, you could continue it to if you don't want to see it back here with changes, then you could just send it along to the staff hearing officer with that straw vote, 3 to 3.
yeah, and then it'll come back here for a preliminary approval, and it will deny it, and it can go on to city council.
But it might be helpful to communicate to the staff hearing officer both sides of the issue. Because it's a split vote. Give them some guidance why some people support the mods, and on the other side why those people didn't support the mods.
Well, I would support the mod, and Denise supports the mod. I guess somebody that doesn't, Gary, you don't support the mod. Why don't you verbalize that so that...
Well, I would state that, as I said previously, because the existing building is in the 30-foot setback, and the structures that are on, I believe it's Padre Street, or is it Anna? The structures, the existing structures on Anacapa Street are within the 30-foot setback. And
for that one right there isn't...
And also, I don't believe that the garage is 100% subterranean. And given those two aspects, I think that the project is too linear and needs to be reduced.
What about this one?
Okay. So is there a motion then with those comments to send this to the staff hearing officer? 3 people supporting the mod and 3 people not supporting the mod.
Yeah. Could we have the comments on the positive side?
Well, I think the positive side is that the existing house, single-story house, is there already, and that all that's being asked for is that be retained as a part of the new design. I think, generally speaking, the whole board agrees that the design is very nice, and that this is just a mod to change the windows out so that they'll conform to the new architecture, and that certainly is a reasonable request. Okay, is there such a motion then? Is anybody going to make that motion for a continuance to the staff hearing officer?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Gary's made the motion. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. What's going to happen now is this will go to the staff hearing officer, probably as you're suggesting will get approved. Then you can come back to us. In the meantime, if you can think of some ways that you can massage this a little bit, that might be beneficial to the board. I would love it if we could approve this project. But, this is a democracy. The board votes. And you have to have a majority. And in this particular case, you have to have 4. So that's where we are. And then if we can't come to an approval, we will send it on to the city council, and that's where it will be settled.
Just for clarification, the principal portion that we're talking about is the area that we're rebuilding in the front. Is that correct?
Pardon me?
Just so that I'm clear, the principal portion that you're talking about is the area which is being rebuilt in the front, which I really don't have any opportunity to move.
I think that in terms of size, bulk, and scale, that it may not be, the problem may not lie there. If something else were reduced in some way, I wouldn't say that. myself, because it's all a matter of, people look at it and they say it's a big house. So there are a lot of big houses in this area, and I understand that, but maybe it wouldn't need to be quite so big. It's you have to struggle with it, and your clients have to. And we understand. We understand that you have your desires and what you want, and you certainly have picked a wonderful architect. And
you bet I surely did.
This is a beautiful,
no question about it. I'm just sorry it's not going to be.
So let's proceed one step at a time and see what happens. Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? So ordered. You put yourself back on the agenda after you go to the staff hearing officer for a preliminary approval here. Thank you. Okay, our last item is 411 Samarkand. This is a proposal for a 640 square foot two-story addition to an existing 1,298 square foot two-story single-family addition. The existing 400 square foot detached two-car garage will remain. It's a 9,000 foot lot. The proposed 2,300 square feet is 70% FAR. Action may be taken. If we so choose. You gentlemen would give your names for the record, please.
I'm William Donnelly.
Okay, William. Hi. You used to be called Bill.
That's my my call name. Yeah.
That's my name too. So
there you
we can call another Bill.
Just can't go on the airplane under the name Bill.
Really?
No, I once had a ticket that said Bill Donnelly, and they wouldn't let me on.
Wouldn't check
because
through.
my driver's license says William.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is the house. It's on a sloping site. From the street, it appears it's a one-story house, and I guess on the back side it's a two-story house.
Yeah, all the livable space is one level.
Is all on one level.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So, and did you give your name for the record?
Ruben Carmona.
Okay.
And I'm the designer.
Okay, Ruben. Now so why don't you give us a quick rundown here on what you're proposing to do?
Well, the existing condition is in this area here. We are proposing to pop out the rear property with a master bedroom and a bath, maintaining this same roof line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it on the first level.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the underneath that, we would like to utilize that area.
The lower level. Yeah.
Lower level.
Okay.
And put in a bedroom with a half bath.
And with no access from the house itself.
Correct. Correct.
So the staff looked at that, Tony, in terms of a separate unit. That the lower, the space that's being used lower, just has an exterior door and a half bath, and that's it.
We were talking about an accessory room, and Brenda suggested just call it a bedroom.
Yeah.
Well, the half bath is okay if there's no bathing down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's totally cut off from the other part of the house. So it really is more like a detached what?
It could be detached.
In a sense, it is detached. It's a detached accessory bedroom or detached bedroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see what the elevations look like here. This is the existing front elevation.
Correct.
Yes.
And this is the
That's the rear.
This is the proposed rear.
And this is the bedroom.
So there are really no changes here at all.
Correct.
This is all just drawn the way that it is, and this is the new wing.
Correct.
And that is how far? How much of this is new here?
This.
Right to there, huh?
Right. I believe it's 16 feet.
All on the back side.
I believe so.
Okay, I think we understand the proposal pretty well. Tony, do you have anything on this?
One thing I wanted to add.
Just hang on for a minute here. We'll let you add.
No staff comments. We have a couple of public comment letters.
Okay.
Let's see, we have a letter that came by email from Mary Auchincloss del Bonus at 3054 Hermosa, and she's concerned that the second-story addition will overlook her garden, and she would like to see story poles.
Oh, yeah, I saw her letter on email. Do we have a full site plan? Is this the site here?
Correct.
You're not on the corner, though, are you?
No.
There's another house here on the corner.
Correct. And
So this lady that we're talking about, I presume, lives here? No, she's on Hermosa. She must live here, like that. This is Hermosa Street. There are only three lots on between.
She can't see me. If that's true, she can't see me. I can't see her. There's no view in my back. The view's in the front.
It's a fairly deep lot.
It's
It's a very deep lot.
Yeah, we got 64 feet from the new
to the.
Is this neighbor here on the corner of Samarkand and Hermosa? That's your neighbor right here.
She's got a double wide lot. She's huge here.
What's her name?
I don't know.
I didn't get that name.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
One thing that was misleading in the comment was that the neighbor was reading something and said it was going to be a two-story addition.
Mhm.
And in actuality, this new construction is not taller than the existing ridge.
Right.
So from the street, it's a one-story, even though the site goes down. So just by reading and not reviewing the plans, if this was a two-story pop-up, then there would be concerns about loss of view. But looking at this project the way it's presented, I respect what the lady said in her letter, but I believe it doesn't pertain to what we're looking at.
What other letter do we have?
Okay, Mr. Chair, in the same letter, Mary also is concerned about the grading that's proposed, and she says she has had substantial issues with water flooding on her property, and she wouldn't want to see any more water directed from this project.
Is there going to be a grading?
The only grading is that to achieve the 8-foot ceiling height on the bedroom below, we've got to take out about close to 2 feet in here. This is the only grading that is, all the exterior grading is to remain. So there's really...
I don't see how that impacts the drainage.
Well, the comment that will come back from the building department is they're not going to want you to increase the runoff off your property. And because you're increasing your impermeable area with a roof, you will have to sort of calculate what that water would be and find a retention area on your site so that the water that currently goes off your property isn't increased. But that's a calculation that can be handled.
Okay.
But you will have to address water drainage through the building department.
This property with this addition is less than 20% of FAR. It's mistakenly written as 70%. The number's wrong. So it's a very small house on a big piece of land.
Okay.
So whatever I have
do we
in the
have
back
any other
there.
letters?
One other letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay. I'll open up the public hearing. I see no one in the audience, so I'll close public hearing. It is to the board for your comments. We could take an action on this if we want to. I presume all materials, colors, details are going to match existing?
Like for like.
Like for like.
Windows and everything?
Correct.
Yes. Roof materials.
I got a generic question. Any cut
Okay.
stone? I noticed by your front door you have some big chunks of stone.
Yeah, there's what do they call it?
It's that sandstone that's on the
Sandstone,
side.
yeah, Santa Barbara sandstone that is put all the way around the perimeter. I would just continue that just like it was. It comes around the building. I would just make like look like.
No, it's a nice detail to add, so
Yeah,
I wasn't
I wanted
noticing it here, but
So we have to show it on the elevations.
I didn't put it on there.
it's a comment that we can add is to include some
Yeah.
sandstone
Yes.
veneer at the base.
And show that on the elevations.
On the drawings.
Gloria.
That's fine.
That's sure.
Okay, do we have any other comments? This looks like a pretty straightforward addition, won't be seen from the street at all. I don't believe the neighbor will have an impact on the neighbor. Yes, Bernie.
Yeah, just to address the letter and the neighbors, I was thinking maybe it would be appropriate to communicate to the neighbor what it is and what it's
Can I
going
get
to
her
look
address
like.
and name, and I will do that.
Get her
Yeah.
address and take
we'll
the
give
plans
these
over and
drawings
show
to
them to her because it looks like
Introduce
it's
ourselves, because I'm very new
it's
right
a slam dunk.
I'm very new there.
That was also our concern when we talked to Brenda about addressing it as a second story. Go, well, it's not really a second story. Well, she says it's a
Not really. It's a two-story addition, but it's not a second story.
right.
It's a first story. It's a first story and a lower story.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we can. That was one of our concerns.
Yeah.
They're going to think we're adding another
Yeah.
story. Yeah, I was like, oh my
And
God.
it does sound scary. That does sound scary. But no, I'll do that. I'll do that this weekend. Well, I'll do this tomorrow if I can.
Good. And so when you come back, I mean, if we give you a preliminary approval here as a basis for working drawings,
Great.
you're going to come back to consent with your drawings and your details and all of your stuff. Maybe you can have a note from the neighbor that she's seen the plans and that she feels comfortable. Okay. Also, we want to make sure that the extra water that comes off this roof gets someplace where it has a chance to sit and percolate in before it runs off the property.
Definitely.
We don't have any topo. I presume this is relatively flat here. I don't know.
It's got a slight slope.
Yeah, it's got slope.
I think it's like
it's tiered, so we can do lots of.
I think the slope was like 6% is what they had on file.
Okay. Well, you need to have a level place someplace where the water will go in there and stop and have a chance to soak in, and it doesn't. You're talking about.
Well, it is tiered too. The rear landscaping is
600
tiered.
square feet of roof area. Whatever, how much water that is, I don't know.
It's actually 320.
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with final on consent with 7 comments, and they're not in any particular order. The first one is that the applicant is to contact the back fence neighbor to review the project with her. And
okay.
The second one is to review the bathroom layout with planning staff. That was just a generic comment. Third is to provide a color board and building materials, call-outs. The fourth is the board is understanding that the detailing is to match the existing structure. 5 is to provide a sandstone base at the addition to match.
Show it on the elevations.
And to show it on the elevation. We didn't comment on this, but to bring additional information about how the existing trellis is connecting to the house. It's not shown on your elevations. And the last item is to address the drainage that runs off your property due to the increased roof area.
And what was the name of that lady on that letter? Let's get that into the minutes.
I don't need to know who that is. Address it, please.
Just get her name Gloria into the minutes, that they'll contact Mrs. So-and-so.
Yeah, Mary Auchincloss del Bonus.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There were some comments about the FAR on the agenda being a little bit incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen the chart that's used from the city on the drawings. There are just some other numbers here. Is it possible just to get the actual paperwork from the website and actually fill that out so we get the correct FAR?
Yeah, let's let the...
On the plan?
On the plan.
Gloria, we want the drawings to show the calculations for FAR correctly. Good comment.
He wants to see the form,
Yeah, just put the form right.
the actual chart from because this was taken off just.
There's actually an Excel spreadsheet
Mhm.
that you can fill in the things, print it out, and then stick it on your drawings.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Did we get some NPO comments?
Making neighborhood findings at the...
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. It is basically a one-story house. The addition is not higher than the existing ridge. The grading is minimal just to achieve the understory. Architecture is going to... The design is going to blend in with the existing style of the house, and the detailing will be nice with the stone base.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Thank you
Well, I
very
can
much.
go
So we can go to engineering?
Go to engineering, do our letters.
Absolutely, and then you'll come back to the consent calendar with your working drawings,
And that
what you're
stuff
going
will
to
be
take to
all
the
there.
building department. You're ready to go, all of the details, all of the color board, everything that, or whatever, however you want to describe that, colors to match the existing. You want to see a color board?
Well, if the pictures are good enough.
I like our pieces of the tile for the roof. I got stuff.
I mean, if colors all match existing and they're not going to change the existing, then I don't see why you have to see a color board. You see that we need notes on there, you know, that all of that is to be done in a certain way.
The roof shingles the nose.
Yeah. But it's on the elevation already.
And if you're putting in any other light fixtures on the side there, you need to cut you the back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
gentlemen. Merry Christmas. I mean, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Okay, without any further, there's no further items on our agenda.